This is a reminder for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm back at the headquarters of Frank Warren. I do have to apologise for our last interview. We had some issues on our end in terms of audio that we couldn't resolve. So we're back here. For once, it's not your fault, Frank, it's our fault. I do apologise for that.
Makes a change.
So would you say Tyson Fury, Fury-Whyte is the biggest fight this country has seen since Lennox Lewis and Frank Bruno in '93?
I think it is, and I think it's actually bigger as far as the amount of people who'll be watching it live concerned. That was a big fight. It was down in Cardiff back then. Highly anticipated fight, but at the end of the day, I think there was only about 30,000 people in the stadium. So as far as a live gate's concerned, it's a much, much bigger fight.
How's the application going with Wembley to extend it to 100,000?
We're still waiting news for that. I mean, you're not going to get, that'll take a little bit of time or so to come through, but fingers crossed we get it over the line.
So last time we spoke, you did around 85,000 tickets within 3 or 4 hours, and then coach packages were going on sale, right. An extra 5,000. So where are we with that one?
I'm quite sure they'll all be gone. I'm quite sure. I'll be honest with you, I've not asked today, but I'm quite sure they'll all be gone. We've got no worries with that, I promise you.
Have you ever seen demand for tickets like this for a boxing event?
I think the nearest I had to it is when I brought Mike Tyson over in, 22 years ago, and we announced his fight at the up in Manchester, and we sold out immediately without even naming an opponent. And that was a quick, genuine sellouts, not putting tickets with companies and whatever.
Must be something about the name Tyson.
Maybe it is. Long may they reign.
I bet you wish you had another 2 Wembleys you could do this fight at.
Well, that was the take up for it. That was the inquiries. So it was fabulous to get that amount of people who are interested in it. But I always felt that Tyson's homecoming would be a huge event, and thankfully I was proven right after bidding so much for the fight.
In terms of a boxing event, I don't remember 100,000 being in attendance, which is what you hope for, of course.
Well, I don't think any, certainly since the Second World War, definitely not.
Frank, I will ask you about Stubhub. You were very vocal in the past on our channel about when Matchroom did events such as Foxgroves 2 at Wembley, Joshua Klitschko at Wembley, and I think Joshua Parker at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, where tickets were in demand for those fights, and a lot of them did end up on Stubhub, and I think you were quoted as saying Matchroom are fleecing the fans with this issue. Now, I've seen tickets pop up on Stubhub for this fight with Fury-Whyte, so can you make any comment on that, please?
Well, we certainly have not supplied Stubhub with tickets. All our tickets went through Ticketmaster, whereas I know for a fact that Matchroom was supplying Stubhub with tickets. They were their sponsors for the show.
Okay. Could you understand people's outcries on the day where they were seeing £55 tickets and tickets at 80, 100 quid going for £500, £600 on StubHub?
I do. I think it's outrageous. Listen, I'd much rather that money was coming into the promotional pot. There'd be more money for the boxers and certainly for us. Absolutely. Yeah, I am. I do find it upsetting for the fans and for us.
Of course, this is out of your hands, this secondary market ticket issue. It's not up to the promoter. Is there anything you can do as a promoter though, moving forwards to eradicate this issue?
Yeah, I advise fans not to buy them.
Okay.
And that stops it.
Okay. But in terms of a legal process?
Well, I think we went down that road, didn't we? A couple of years ago, the government were going to do something, and it all seems to have petered out. All you can do is keep pressure on the government to bring some legislation in to stop it from happening. It's not just boxing. It's all events across the board, and they were quite active, but obviously they've had their hands full over the last couple of years with COVID, and now with the terrible situation in the Ukraine. But hopefully, if things settle down and they get some time in Parliament, they can deal with it.
Frank, moving on, Tyson Fury said this could be his last fight. We could see him retire after this fight with Fury-Whyte. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if he decides to do that, Umar, then that's his choice, and we'll support him wholeheartedly. The last thing I want him to do is be getting into the ring if he's not, if his mind and his heart are not in it. If they're not in it, then he shouldn't be in the ring. It's a dangerous place. He's very, very wealthy. He's done everything that's been asked of him, I should say. and it's his choice, as I say. If he wants to carry on, there's some great fights out there to be made with him. But if he doesn't want to do it, then I'm with him 100%.
Yeah, his younger brother Tommy Fury said that he's done it all. He's got nothing to prove in terms of the Klitschko win in Germany and the 3 Wilder fights in the US. Do you go along with that?
Well, he hasn't got nothing to prove. The only thing that didn't happen is that he managed to fight someone for the 4 belts. That's really what we wanted to see happen. That's why we would like to have seen him fight Usyk.
In terms of that comment about retiring, do you think that is a bit of tongue-in-cheek though from Tyson?
No, I don't know. Look, he trains hard. I know training for him is a discipline in his life that he feels he needs. But if he wants to carry on boxing, that's whether he's got the fire in his belly to continue doing it. I don't walk in his shoes. At the end of the day, he's the only person who's going to know the answer to that, and he'll know the answer to that after his next fight.
Right, I'm aware Andy from the office showed me a permit from the board saying that Tyson's eligible to box on an overseas licence if you want to step in the ring tomorrow. So that's all dealt with.
Tyson will fight. He will fight here. Absolutely fight here on a board licence. He will get licensed on the day like anybody who does. He'll be licensed to fight here, not a problem. And that's where we are. And there'll be neutral judges for this fight.
You can ask you about that actually. I think it was, I'm not 100%, but I think it was Frochgroves 2 where we saw all American officials. So this should not be an issue getting...
It's not an issue, it's agreed.
Oh, it's done?
It's done. Contrary to my PR man, Eddie, what he's been putting out, it's actually been done.
Okay, so do we know where they'll be from, these officials?
I don't know yet. We'll work that out.
But they won't be British?
They won't be British. None of the judges will be British.
Okay. It was an interesting week, to say the least, last week, Frank, in terms of talking about the press conference with Fury-Whyte, where it was just yourself, Tyson and Brad Jacobs in attendance. But is that there now? We're moving on to April 23rd, a monumental show, one of the biggest this country's seen, if not the biggest. Is that where we're at now?
Well, it is the biggest show, there's no doubt about that. And we do. It's I've got to be honest, it's great to know that Tyson Fury is such an attraction that we have more or less sold out, virtually we have sold out. That's great, and it takes a lot of, certainly from my perspective, it eases the pressures a lot. And I spoke to Bob Arum over the weekend, and he's obviously delighted too. So we're all happy in the position we're in, and we've done that just with one fighter.
How do you think this will perform in the US? You said you just spoke to Bob Arum.
I think it'll do good business. He's very confident it'll do good business. Tyson's made a name for himself over there, and that last fight was epic. It was an epic fight, and it really went down well everywhere. It's the most exciting fight I've ever seen with heavyweights live. And in the States, everybody, that's all they were talking about. So he's made a name for himself now, and he's got his mandatories against Dillian, who's I feel is a legitimate challenger for him. So it should be another good fight.
Yeah, well, that'll be on ESPN Plus pay-per-view in the States. Of course, it's on BT Sport box office over here in the UK. As we've seen the ticket demand through the roof, quite literally, at Wembley. But without another member, in terms of Dillian Whyte, I'm talking about, participating in the promotion, in terms of the wider public, do you think that could hamper pay-per-view sales a little bit?
No, not at all. If anything, I think it enhances them. It's been like a bit of a reverse publicity in some ways, and I just feel he's going to have to face up to him at some stage. The week of the fight, for the press conference and for the weigh-in, he's going to have to face up. Something's going to have to be said. But whatever happens. When you look back, I look back and think about with Tyson, with Deontay Wilder. Deontay, after the first fight, you couldn't get a word out of him. And the very last fight, he wasn't even saying anything. It was Tyson Fury who was selling it. So, Tyson's a sporting superstar now. He's not just a heavyweight boxer. He's crossed over. He's a big name here. He's a big name around the world, and he's a big name in America. He's done something that no British heavyweight's done since Lennox Lewis.
Well, with potentially 100,000 people at Wembley for this fight, how many buys do you think this does on box office?
I think it'll do 1.5 million buys.
That would break the record, wouldn't it?
It'll be up there. I think it will be. I'm sure it'll break the record.
Okay. We also know that there will be red button access for this fight as well, in terms of the box office on BT Sport exclusively, but this will sit on the Sky platform.
That's correct.
So that has got to surely be a boost for you guys as well.
I'm not moaning about it.
How important is that red button access?
Look, it's very important for fights to be seen by as many people as possible, because the more people watching it, the more people are paying for it. The more people are paying for it, it helps to make the event a success. So yeah, I'm delighted, and I'm really delighted that BT Box Office, BT Sport has stepped up, because without them this would have been very difficult to have done.
So what we're going for, final prediction then, 100,000 tickets sold at Wembley and 1.5 million pay-per-view buys on BT Sport Box Office?
That's how I'm looking at it, yeah.
Okay. And
we're half right at the moment.
I'm sure BT will release the price of this pay-per-view as well soon. Can't tell us that now, can
they
you?
will do.
Okay. And I've heard Tommy Fury and Isaac Lowe will be on the undercard?
We will be announcing the undercard actually either the end of this week or next Monday.
Okay, good stuff. If this was won by Matchroom, in terms of this was a DAZN fight, Fury-Whyte, and Fury hadn't been doing press and promoting the fight, how do you think that would have gone down with DAZN and Matchroom?
Well, you can imagine they'd be feel the same way I do, but Tyson wouldn't do that. He's a professional. Tyson didn't do that when he fought Fury. Tyson didn't do that when he fought Wilder. He went out, he went out and promoted the fight because he's a proper professional. We've just won the purse bid for Demetrius Andrade and Zach Parker. He's returned his contract, Demetrius, and he's coming over here for the press conference. He's a world champion, who's been a world champion for quite a while now. So if he can come over here, I'm certain, anybody can. Well, certainly Dillian should show up if fighters of a world champion can do it. But we look after fighters. When fighters fight on our cards, we treat them properly. And as you've asked a question about DAZN, they would be extremely pissed off, and I'm sure Screaming Lord Sutch would be screaming the house down.
Anyways, yeah, we move on to April 23rd, a huge fight week, and you believe this is the biggest show we'll ever see in the country. I
do, honestly do. I think seriously, it's a great show. It's going to be a good fight. And I think it's going to be a really, really, really good night for the fans and for British boxing and world boxing, but certainly for British boxing.
Spoke to Anthony Joshua over the weekend. Did like a 3 or 4 minute interview with him, and he was actually very positive about it. I asked him, how do you feel about Tyson Fury headlining Wembley? This is your old stomping ground. This is where you headlined against Klitschko, sold out 90,000. Same with Alexander Povetkin. And he said, good luck to him. It's good to see him doing it. He's happy as well for John Fury because he gets to see this fight with his, of course, travel ban to America, where he hasn't been able to see his son box live. But he did say he wants ringside tickets, and if he can get them for a discount as well, Frank, is he welcome?
A discount? The money he's made? Of course he can come along to the show. I mean, listen. He's been guest at loads of my shows before he turned professional. He used to come along to the show, say, yeah, you can come along to the show, not a problem.
He knows your family, doesn't he?
He knows my family, yeah. He knows my younger brother Robert, and his mate they were quite close. He's Robert's mate and him, very close, yeah.
So yeah, if Anthony wants to attend, he can be there.
He knows what to do. Pick up the phone and we'll sort him out.
Frank, I did also ask him about his current situation. Of course, there's a much bigger situation going on with Alexander Usyk in terms of Ukraine and Russia at the moment, and he didn't really want to comment on the political situation, but I did ask him, what's next for you? Is it going to be an interim fight? And he said, yeah, I want to fight soon and get out. And Chisora was standing next to him as well. I was interviewing at the same time, and I said to Chisora, who would you like to see Anthony face next? And they were pondering, they couldn't really come up with someone. And I went, what about Joe Joyce? Just come to my mind, it's a good fight. Derek said that it's not a good fight for Anthony.
Why is that? Why is it not a good fight for Anthony?
I think he was just suggesting that it's not appropriate for Anthony, it's not a good enough fight.
Well, what can I say? I mean, I think the public would definitely buy into AJ and Joe Joyce, don't you?
I think it's a very good fight.
I think it's a monster fight. I mean, that's probably why I'm a promoter and Derek Chisora isn't. and he's an opponent.
Well, Joshua, there is a very strong chance we'll need an opponent soon. So you got any heavyweights for him?
Joe Joyce. We'd make that in a heartbeat. Joe would fight him in a heartbeat. What a great domestic bust-up that is. Let's get our heads together and get that done.
Yeah.
Do that in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Joe would do it. Remember when he lost his opponent? I can't remember what fight he had. Somebody go was injured, and they had to get someone in. And Joe said he'd step up and fight him then.
I do remember that. Yeah.
A couple of years ago. I'm not sure at the time, but yeah, that's a fantastic fight.
I know this is very hypothetical, but how would that work? Obviously, Anthony being the A side in that situation, in terms of TV, etc. How would that work?
You work a deal out. Just how does that work? You sit around the table and work a deal out. I think it's a brilliant fight. I like that. I mean, I really do like that fight. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just saying to him, is trying to think of opponents that Anthony could face, really.
That'd sell out Wembley.
Yeah.
That'd sell the ground out.
Yeah. In terms of the heavyweight theme, sticking with Joe Joyce as well, I see rumours about this fight with Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker went on BT the other day and said, let's lock it in. What's the update with Joe?
Well, the update with Joe is that he's got his problem with his arm, and we're hoping he's going to be ready to fight early May, and then we go from there. I want to get him out, and we'll see who the opponent's going to be. I want to see how get the clearance on his arm, or his wrist, I should say, which he broke. But yeah, and get him out. He's in a really good position, and it's sad what is happening with Usyk. It's terrible that you can't. He's actually got a tougher fight on his hands than boxing at the moment where he's at. I mean, it's a dreadful thing that's happening in his country, but I'm sure that's going to ensure that there'll be some other fights taking place. Why obviously he's doing what he's doing.
And I've just spoken to yourself, Daniel Dubois, and Martin Bowers. Of course, purse bids are due on March 14th. Oh, he's ringing there.
That's right.
Is that the WBA or Don King?
Somebody called Jay. That is good.
Okay. Purse bids due March 14th for Dubois and Bryant for that WBA regular. Is it likely though, or unlikely, you reach a deal with Don King for that fight?
We've only got a week to do it, and then we're at purse bids. One way or another, the fight's on, which is great news. It's been, as I said in the interview, it's been really frustrating. Wait for Daniel. He's been out of action for a while. He's supposed to fought in the States before Christmas, but he couldn't do it because he hadn't had COVID jab. And we are where we are now, and for him, he's in a really good position.
And that's a 55-45 purse split to the champion,
yeah.
Trevor. Obviously you had a big split for Fury-Whyte. You won that. You didn't have the split for Andre Parker. You won that purse bid. So
we manipulated it.
Will you manipulate this one?
I hope so. I hope we can. I want to see. I just want to get it on. I just want to see Daniel back in action. I want to see Joe back in action. I mean, they're two fantastic heavyweights, and they're the next guys who are going to be, vying for that chance to fight for the big fight, for the world title. And hopefully, when the dust settles with all the guys, they'll get their opportunity, both of them. But in the meantime, they've got to be busy, and they've got to get in some meaningful fights. And Daniel's in one, and we've got to get Joe into one as well.
So realistically, for the pair of them, for Daniel and Joe, May, June time?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Anthony Yard, what's the situation with him?
Anthony, he's in a really good spot now because they've made, as you know, Joe Smith and
Beterbiev
are fighting each other in the unification, but the winner will have to fight now Anthony, because Canelo's made it quite clear where his next two fights are. So they will now have to fight him, which is brilliant.
But in terms of an interim, what does he do for now?
Keep him busy.
Okay.
He'll fight. He'll fight sometime in April.
April 23rd?
He'll fight sometime in April.
And Callum Johnson, obviously, is just unfortunate event after another unfortunate event for him.
Don't even go there. Yeah, it's twice now, isn't it? So We just got to get him into a fight. We're speaking to Joe and see where we go with it. And we're going to have a chat this week and see what we can do for him.
Some positive news though. Demetrius, as you said, Demetrius Andrade signed his part of the contract to fight Zach Parker. Delighted about that?
I am. It's a tough fight. I mean, it's a bloody good fight. It's a very good fight, and it's a tough fight for Zach. But I think he's got a great opportunity or he has a chance of winning that fight. He's a big super middleweight. Andrade's coming up. He can do it. I know he can. I know he's got a great chance of doing it. And even if it didn't happen, it's massive experience for him. But I do believe he can win the fight.
Press conference to announce date and venue soon?
Yeah, we're going to try and get him over next week.
Okay, good to hear.
Yeah,
good to hear.
Get out and running.
Likely to take place in Derby?
That's what we're looking to do. We want to get it on in Derby, and I think it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere there. You know, in the Midlands, get that type of fight on there. Be brilliant to do it. We've done well in the Midlands over the last, sort of 18 months, 2 years. We've been building it, and we've got a good group of fighters. We've got good ticket selling fighters. So I think we can make a real good card there. And with that on top of it, it would be something special.
Frank, obviously January all boxing was banned in this country by the board. February you had no shows, and we'll come on to that in a second. But you've got this Friday night at Your Call, fantastic fight between Chris Bourke and Mark Leach for the British title, and then moving on to the Saturday after rather, Wembley Arena, David Avanesian's out again. So delighted to get 2 shows on. How comes in February you didn't run? I know you told me, but just to remind everyone.
Well, what happened was the Border Control, when they put that circular out saying there's been no boxing without any consultation to any promoters, no fights in January, so we had to cancel our show, and they said they'll review the matter at the end of the month. Well, we were worried at the end of the month if they were still negative about allowing events to go on, then we'd be paying out for venues and whatever, and the guys wouldn't would have been training and so forth, and it'd been difficult to promote them. So we decided to push everything back, and that's what we did. It was ridiculous what happened in January. No other sport closed down. No other governing body did what they did, and without even speaking to the people who were promoting, or even the boxers, managers and so forth, I thought was unacceptable.
Okay. But yeah, you roll on with these shows. We'll ask you about David Avanesian on the 19th.
Yeah.
Be completely honest, there has been criticism about the opponent that David's stepping in with. So can you justify that?
Well, justify. He's in the European rankings, and we've made the fight. I mean, in an ideal world, I'd like to see him in with Conor Benn.
We don't live in an ideal world.
We certainly do not. No, we don't. But that would have been the fight. We'd have made that in a heartbeat.
Just to clear up as well, he was ordered to fight in a WBC final eliminator.
Correct.
With Virgil Ortiz Jr.
Yeah.
But Virgil took another direction with McKinson.
Correct.
So, that would have been the next fight you guys would have made.
And we're waiting for the WBC to decide what they're going to do now. They said they would sort something out. In the meantime, he's got to keep him busy. And I remember Callum was going to fight on that show, so it's all short notice what we've had to do. But it's a cracking card.
After this fight with Mex, though, a big fight for David Avanesian.
Absolutely, that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do. He's capable. He's not like somebody I've got to wrap up in cotton wool. I mean, he's been there. He's done it. He's had some really good fights in America. Real good fights. Made a bit of a name for himself there.
How are tickets going for that show, March 19th?
They're doing okay. We're doing well. Yeah, we're doing well with it. Yeah.
Okay. And the card, as you alluded to, I believe Dennis McCann is on there.
Dennis is on there.
Hamza Shiraz.
Andy Shiraz, yeah, I've got a card here. We've got Andy Shiraz. Where are we? I have to look at it. See, I'm getting old. When you get to 70, you have to be reminded of things.
I thought you Hamza Shiraz. What was your 50th the other week?
No, it was the 49th anniversary of my 21st. So, yeah, we've got Hamza's fighting Jez Smith. We've got Mark Chamberlain and Jeff Offery. Sam Noakes against Vincenzo Fianello. So it's a good card, all of them. Louis Lynn, James Beach Jr. It's a good little fight.
Okay.
So that's quite, it's quite a bit. Henry Turner's on there, Sonny Liston Ali, Khalid Ali, and youngsters, mate. A young little man's making his debut. Royston
Barney
Smith making his debut.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about.
Ben Davison's very excited about it as well.
Everyone's going to like him. He should be excited about him. Everyone's going to like him when they see him. Yeah. He's going to be a great addition to the scene.
I did ask you at the press conference for Fury-Whyte about the whole situation with Taylor Catterall. Talk's still going about how we can change this. I don't want to ask you about this fighting specific.
You change it by making people accountable. You do what they do with football referees. If a football referee screws up for any reason, or he's not putting a good performance or a couple of performances, then they look at the football league, Premiership League, whoever it may be, the association, they look at them and then they decide what they're going to do. And invariably, if they feel it's appropriate, they downgrade them. But you have to do something. You can't just let it keep rolling over onto the next one and just say, oh, we're going to have an inquiry, we're going to have a chat about it at the next board meeting, have a chat at the next board meeting and say, oh, right, it was bad. And then they appoint someone again for a big fight. That can't happen anymore. It's got to stop. And there's a shortage. I know there's a shortage of officials. So you deal with that. You've got to start bringing more officials in. There's a lot of amateur guys as well who want to come through, and that's what you have to do. And if you haven't got them here, you've got to get some throughout the world. By the way, bad decisions are not something that just happen in the UK. We've seen some terrible decisions in Vegas, but they've got a similar policy as well, where they appoint the officials for these title fights. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all.
They've come out and said they're going to investigate this thing with Taylor Catterall, but there's no good someone investigating himself. So who can investigate?
Well, the whole situation. I mean, the Border Control in some ways do a really good job and have done a great job for boxing. However, the other side of it is they're a self-appointed body. They're not accountable. No one elects them. They're just a self-appointed body and self-appointed officials. And people do have to be accountable. We're accountable for what we do. We do something wrong, the board call us. So if something happens at the board that's wrong, they have to be accountable. So who are they accountable for? The Minister of Sport? I don't know how, they're not elected, and something needs to be sorted out as far as these officials are concerned. Something needs to be done, and you can't just keep brushing it under the carpet or moving on to the next one, jobs for old boys. Whatever way you want to look at it, Josh Taylor, it's not Josh Taylor's fault. Josh didn't look himself to me that night at all, by the way, in the fight. And Jack done a tremendous job, I felt he really boxed well. And now they give him a rematch, but he can't make the weight, and he wants to do it at higher weight, which is nice. I mean, all what he's saying is good, and brilliant of him to say that. However, from Jack Catterall's point of view, he's never going to get the chance to fight for the 4 belts again. That's been snatched away from him. So, you look at if he'd have got the decision, how much he would, where his earning capacity would be, and so forth, how his name would be in boxing, and so forth. It's somebody does need to be accountable for it.
Am I right in saying there's no government funding into the board?
Nothing.
So essentially,
it's funded by the licence holders.
Yourself, Matchroom,
all of us.
Boxer.
Promoters. Everybody. The boxers pay licence fees.
No, I meant the promotional outfit Boxer in terms of Ben Shalom.
Oh yeah. Everybody has to. We pay sanction fees for fights and so forth. Yeah.
But isn't that wrong?
No, it's not. We pay sanction fees. Otherwise, who's going to pay for it? The board to run.
No, in terms of you guys have to fork out for them. Shouldn't the government step in?
Well, I'd prefer not to pay. But having said that, I mean, obviously I won't. But having said that, that's the situation in America as well. You pay a licence fee and they deduct sanction fees and so forth. They do the same thing in Vegas, which is a state that, not just all the states, there's all state-run organisations, and they're appointed by the state. So they are a form of government-run governing bodies.
Should there be more transparency as well? As when a fighter loses, he's got to come out and do an interview on TV straight away. You have to do interviews. If people are asking questions of yourself about something about the show, or if something goes wrong, should a judge come out and justify his decision?
Well, referees don't do it, do they, in football? And the thing about the difference between, boxing, unlike any other sport I can think, especially for the type of sport it is, when the boxers are in there, it can be in a real tough fight, can get knocked down, take a beating, can win a fight. They do an interview almost immediately, whereas footballers and a lot of other sportsmen have the luxury of going back to the dressing room, sitting down and composing themselves before they do anything. and the managers get the same position. Whereas in boxing, the microphone shoved straight up your nose, to get your immediate reaction. I don't think you should be interviewing. I don't agree with interviewing or asking a referee in football or anything why they made a certain decision. I think that's very difficult. I mean, it's very, very difficult to be asked in that. But I feel they should be, like they are in football and other sports. I feel they should be accountable. I don't think it should be, we're having a hearing, we want to see the result of that hearing. What actually can happen. I've got a big thing as well about the drugs in boxing now. I mean, for me, that's another thing that people need to get grip of. Certainly in the UK, there's all this stuff where some boxers are weighing in and then taking stuff intravenously afterwards. That shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be done. You want. I know I'm sort of going off on another track now, but it's things like that, and the border control need to deal with these things. I feel that they really need to get on top of this, as do UCAD. In this country, they need to jump on top of this and make sure these things don't happen.
Just lastly, I know you said the board do a fantastic job in terms of medicals and issues like that. They are fantastic.
Well, they just lost a case.
Did they?
They just lost a big case, for a guy who fought here from abroad. He was given permission to box. He sued them over injuries, and he's won his case. I don't know what the damages that they had got, but that was kept quietly quiet. Not say kept quiet. It's not I've not read a lot about it, but that happened, and again, we as the licence holders want to know what the background to that was and how it came about. Now look, terrible things do happen. Things do go wrong. Nobody's infallible. We're all human beings, but we want to know what's happening with our border control. We want to know these things. There's no having to go at the border control, but we want to know. You have a hearing, we've got a chairman, we've got a president. Robert Smith comes out and says what he's got to say and does what he's got to do. But we need to be more open to be made aware of what is going on in sport.
Okay. What I was going to say is I don't want to just sit here and slam the board because as you just said, they do good stuff. But I guess my final question is: does it need a complete overhaul?
I'd say complete overhaul, but something needs to be done. Then people need to be accountable for their actions. Everybody, myself, boxers, do something wrong, they're accountable for their action, they're called before the board. And also the board needs to be accountable if they get something wrong or somebody does something wrong, they need to be accountable. It's a tough job, but this is an industry. This is $1 billion industry now in this world. Massive fights going on. We talked about, you talked about earlier about Joshua filling up Wembley, Tyson filling Wembley, and all these big fights going on. We need to it needs to be brought into the 21st century in some ways. And I'm not here kicking the border control. It's just my feeling that we need some more openness, and we need more representation on there. I'm a big supporter of the boxing border control. And when they had their hard times in the past, and we see terrible times with them, with the case they went through with Michael Watson, which sent them into administration. We don't want things like that happen again. So we need some accountability, need some openness, and need dialogue with the participants and the people who are working within the industry. As I said earlier, I was extremely unhappy with what happened in January without any consultation. That's not on.
Well, Frank, appreciate your time here at the office today. Best of luck with your show this Friday night at Your Call. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close off to the fans?
No, I'm just pleased the way things Touchwood are going at the moment, and just I've got to read this note. Oh, and good luck to everybody, and see you all soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, mate.